The Philadelphia Eagles just got hit with a wave of reality in their offensive coordinator search, and the picture that's forming right now is more complicated than fans probably expected. This is no longer just about finding the next play caller. It's about how the rest of the league actually views the Eagles' job, the power structure inside the building, and whether top offensive minds truly see Philadelphia as the best place for their future. The biggest development starts with Brian Daboll. The understanding around the league is clear. He does not view the Eagles' offensive coordinator job as his preferred landing spot. The report explains that Daboll's priority is becoming a head coach again. After his stint with the New York Giants ended, the mission shifted back to running his own team. If he lands the Buffalo Bills head coaching job, that's an obvious move for him. He has deep ties there, familiarity with ownership and management, and most importantly, Josh Allen. Daboll helped turn Allen into one of the best quarterbacks in football and coordinated multiple top 10 offenses in Buffalo. Going back to that environment makes sense for his career, but here's where it gets uncomfortable for Eagles fans. If Daboll does not get that Bills job, the expectation is that he would rather coach the Tennessee Titans than come to Philadelphia. Tennessee offers massive cap flexibility, leading the league with over $90 million in space that will climb higher once the offseason officially opens. They're opening a new stadium in 2027. Nashville is an attractive city for coaches, and under Robert Saleh, Daboll would have full autonomy over the offense. Saleh would run the defense, and Daboll would control the system, the quarterback development, and the weekly identity. In Philadelphia, that control is different. Nick Sirianni has influence. Howie Roseman has influence. Jeffrey Lurie has influence. The Eagles operate with a layered power structure, and for some coaches, that matters. At the same time, the Eagles also lost momentum with Mike McDaniel. Philadelphia had real interest in him as a replacement for Kevin Patullo, and he was near the top of their internal list. He did interview virtually, but ultimately chose the Los Angeles Chargers. The draw was simple: Justin Herbert and a return to California. Tampa Bay also pursued McDaniel aggressively, but Herbert's arm and long-term upside won out. From McDaniel's perspective, teaming up with Herbert is a chance to shape an elite quarterback in his prime. What's interesting is the irony in all of this. Justin Herbert has cycled through offensive coordinators, including Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore. Those same coordinators helped Jalen Hurts reach a Super Bowl and win one, with Hurts earning Super Bowl MVP honors. Yet McDaniel still preferred the Chargers situation. That doesn't mean the Eagles are broken. It actually signals something else. Philadelphia is actively trying to evolve its offense, push Hurts beyond comfort zones, and modernize concepts. The interest in McDaniel alone shows that Sirianni and the front office want change, not stagnation. Still, the question starts forming naturally. Is the Eagles' offensive coordinator job truly desirable? Philadelphia is a pressure cooker. The fan base is smart, loud, emotional, and demanding. The media coverage is relentless. Kevin Patullo felt that pressure firsthand. The offense struggled, and frustration boiled over in ugly ways after losses. Candidates around the league see that environment and understand what comes with it. Coaching in Philly is not quiet work. Every play call gets dissected. Then there's the organizational dynamic. Jeffrey Lurie is heavily involved but respected. Howie Roseman controls roster construction. Nick Sirianni is polarizing but successful. Veteran players carry influence because they've earned it, and the offensive core recently won a Super Bowl. That creates opportunity but also accountability. You're not walking into a blank slate. You're walking into expectations. And yet this job still carries massive upside. The Eagles are loaded with talent at the skill positions. They have a Super Bowl MVP at quarterback. 2 recent coordinators turned this job into head coaching promotions. Shane Steichen did it after 2022. Kellen Moore did it after 2024. Roseman consistently builds elite offensive lines. Sirianni has produced multiple playoff runs, double-digit win seasons, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and a championship. Philadelphia is a major market. Primetime games, national attention, and real Super Bowl windows come with the job. So when names like Daboll and McDaniel step away, it forces a deeper conversation. Are candidates afraid of the pressure, the structure, the scrutiny, or are they simply chasing different timelines for their careers? The Eagles are still one of the most attractive football situations in the league, but attraction depends on what a coach truly wants: control, comfort, or championship contention. And that's where this story really begins to turn, because now Philadelphia has to decide what direction they take with the next wave of candidates and what kind of offensive identity they truly want to build moving forward. Now the focus shifts from who said no to who actually makes sense for what the Eagles are trying to become on offense. Because once Daboll and Mike McDaniel fall out of the picture, the search isn't about star power anymore. It's about fit, creativity, and whether the next coordinator can maximize Jalen Hurts while still evolving the system. One of the most interesting names still connected to this process is Joe Brady. He already crossed paths with the Eagles years ago when he interviewed for the head coaching job back in 2021 before Nick Sirianni was hired. What Brady has done recently is important. In Buffalo, he helped balance an offense that had become too dependent on Josh Allen hero ball. Instead of living and dying with deep shots, the offense became more controlled, more structured, and more efficient. That matters in Philadelphia because the Eagles have sometimes leaned too hard on talent instead of sequencing and rhythm. Brady's strength is teaching quarterbacks when to attack and when to stay patient. With Hurts, that could be a major shift. Then there's Charlie Weis Jr., coming from LSU after following Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. He hasn't called plays at the NFL level, and that's the risk. But the Eagles have always shown interest in finding the next offensive mind before the rest of the league catches up. Weis has real play-calling experience in college, and his offenses are built around spacing, motion, and using matchups instead of forcing concepts. In Philadelphia, that could help unlock receivers and create cleaner throwing windows for Hurts instead of asking him to win every snap on broken structure. Another intriguing option is Nate Scheelhaase from the Rams. He works closely with Sean McVay designing the pass game. The concern is simple: no NFL play-calling history, but the upside is real. McVay's system is built on disguise, timing, and making quarterbacks comfortable before the snap. The Eagles have often been predictable. Adding someone who thinks like a scientist in the lab, scripting concepts and manipulating defenses, could raise the ceiling of the offense if the risk hits.
Bobby Slowick also fits into that modern mold. He's tied to the Shanahan coaching tree and worked closely with Mike McDaniel. When C.J. Stroud had that breakout rookie year, Slowick was the play caller. His offenses prioritize running the football to open everything else. That part matters in Philadelphia. The Eagles want physical football, but they also need smarter answers on third down and in the red zone. Even though Houston struggled later, the structure of Slowick's offense is still respected around the league. Then there's Davis Webb, currently a quarterback's coach, rising fast on coaching boards. His value is development. Working under Sean Payton, he's been part of building quarterbacks mentally, mechanically, and situationally. With Hurts, the Eagles don't need a rebuild, but they do need refinement. The next step for Hurts is anticipation, consistency, and processing speed against elite defenses. A coordinator who thinks like a quarterback teacher instead of just a play designer could quietly make a big impact. Zach Robinson is another name tied to the process. He comes from the Sean McVay tree and has experience calling plays. Atlanta used heavy pre-snap motion, which is something the Eagles' offense has lacked. Motion creates leverage, forces defenses to declare, and helps quarterbacks diagnose coverages faster. That's a positive, but the concerns follow him too. Third down efficiency, sequencing, and feel for the game. Atlanta finished near the bottom of the league in third down conversions, and that's an area where the Eagles also struggled. Philadelphia can't afford another coordinator who stalls drives in critical moments. And that brings everything back to the real issue: identity. For years, the Eagles have had elite talent, offensive line strength, dynamic receivers, a quarterback who can hurt defenses with his arm and legs. But talent alone isn't enough in January football. The difference between good offenses and championship offenses is detail, play sequencing, first down efficiency, red zone creativity, third down answers, and most importantly, adaptability when defenses take away your favorite looks. Nick Sirianni knows this. That's why the Eagles looked at coaches like McDaniel in the first place. They want movement, variation, pressure on linebackers, stress on safeties, and easier throws for Hurts. They want to stop living in predictable structures and start forcing defenses to guess. The irony in all of this is that Philadelphia should be attractive. You get a Super Bowl MVP at quarterback. You get national attention. You get playoff expectations. And if you succeed, history shows you get head coaching opportunities fast. But the flip side is accountability. In this city, if the offense stalls, everyone notices. Every 3rd and 7, every red zone failure, every conservative call becomes a headline. So now the Eagles sit at a crossroads. Do they swing for innovation? Do they go safe and stable? Or do they chase development and long-term growth with Hurts? The answer to that question will shape the entire offense, not just next season, but the next phase of this roster. Because this isn't just about filling a job. It's about deciding what the Eagles' offense is supposed to look like when it matters most. The deeper you go into this offensive coordinator search, the clearer it becomes that this isn't just a coaching hire, it's a philosophical reset for the Eagles' offense. What failed last season wasn't effort or talent, it was cohesion. Too many drives depended on Jalen Hurts creating outside the structure instead of the structure creating for him. When defenses defenses took away the first read, things slowed down. When third downs came, the answers weren't clean. And in playoff football, that's where seasons die. That's why the next coordinator has to do more than just install plays. He has to redesign how Philadelphia attacks defenses from snap one. The Eagles have always been physical, but modern NFL success blends physicality with deception. Motion before the snap, layered route concepts, run-pass conflict for linebackers, forcing safeties to hesitate, creating space so Hurts doesn't have to be perfect on every throw. One of the biggest issues last year was predictability. Too many times defenses knew what was coming based on alignment alone. When A.J. Brown was isolated, coverage tilted early. When the Eagles lined up heavy, boxes got stacked. The great offenses punish those reactions. They bait defenders into mistakes. That's what coaches from the Shanahan and McVay trees specialize in. They don't just call plays. They tell stories with formations. The same look gives you 5 different answers, and the defense never knows which one is coming. For Hurts specifically, the next coordinator's job is about growth, not reinvention. Hurts already proved he can win big games, manage pressure, and dominate when confident. But the next step is anticipation, throwing before receivers fully break, trusting spacing, winning from the pocket even when the run game is neutralized. That development doesn't come from talent alone. It comes from repetition inside a system built to help the quarterback see faster and think less. That's where sequencing becomes critical. First down can't just be survival. It has to be opportunity. Second down can't be predictable. And third down can't feel like improvisation. When the Eagles were at their best, everything flowed. Run action looked like pass. Pass concepts mirrored run looks. Defenders hesitated. That hesitation is the difference between 4th and 2 and touchdown drives. Another layer is leadership. Whoever walks into that room isn't coaching rookies. He's coaching veterans who won championships. Players like A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, and Jalen Hurts don't need motivation. They need belief in the system. If the coordinator can't communicate why something works, the locker room will feel it. Philly players respond to clarity, not hype. And this is why the job is both attractive and dangerous. If you succeed, you become the next head coach. If you fail, every camera in the league knows your name. Philadelphia magnifies coordinators more than almost any city. That's why some coaches hesitate. Not because the roster is bad, but because expectations are ruthless. What the Eagles really need is a coordinator who blends innovation with accountability. Someone who isn't scared to challenge Hurts but also knows how to protect him schematically. Someone who doesn't chase trends but understands why trends work. Someone who can look at a defense and already have the counter built in before the ball is snapped. Because in today's NFL, you're not beating elite teams with talent alone. You beat them with answers. Answers against pressure. Answers in the red zone. Answers when your first plan gets erased. The Eagles have the players. What they've been missing is the chess match advantage. This hire will decide whether the Eagles' offense becomes dynamic again or stays dependent on individual brilliance. It will decide if Hurts takes another leap or stays in survival mode against top defenses. And it will decide whether Philadelphia keeps chasing Super Bowls or just stays competitive. Now it's your turn. What direction should the Eagles really take with this offensive coordinator hire? And what kind of offense do you want to see built around Jalen Hurts? And when you zoom out even more, you realize the Eagles aren't just hiring a coordinator, they're deciding how much control Jalen Hurts gets within the offense itself. Over the last couple of seasons, the system slowly shifted toward letting Hurts solve problems on his own. That works when protection is perfect and receivers win immediately. But against elite defenses, that freedom can quietly become isolation. The quarterback ends up carrying the burden of every snap instead of the scheme carrying him. Great coordinators reverse that relationship. They don't ask the quarterback to be Superman. They ask him to be efficient, ruthless, and calm. The ball comes out on time. The reads are defined. The spacing is intentional. Instead of Hurts escaping pressure and creating magic, the magic is built into the play before the snap even happens. One of the biggest missing pieces lately has been conflict creation. Defenses weren't stressed enough horizontally. Linebackers weren't forced to choose between run fits and passing lanes. Safeties weren't frozen by motion and layered routes. When you watch the best offenses, every snap puts someone in a bind. If you step up, the ball goes behind you. If you sit back, the run hits you. If you rotate, the quarterback already knows where the void will be. Philadelphia has the personnel to do that, but the system hasn't always demanded it. A.J. Brown is at his best when defenses are late. DeVonta Smith wins when spacing is clean. Dallas Goedert dominates when linebackers hesitate. The run game works best when fronts are unsure. All of that comes from design, not improvisation. Another issue that quietly haunted the Eagles' offense was rhythm. Too many drives started slow, then asked Hurts to rescue them on 3rd and long. Championship offenses don't live in 3rd and 8. They live in 2nd and 4. They live in manageable situations where the full playbook stays open. That comes from early down creativity. screens, play action, motion, counters off the same looks, making defenses defend every blade of grass. And that's why this hire also impacts the locker room.